Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So welcome to panel 9, the global circulation of blue and white. We have 4 speakers this afternoon, 2 from the United Kingdom, 1 from Germany, and the other one from Russia. So our first speaker is Ms. Catherine Butler. She is an entrepreneur and a researcher in Chinese porcelain. She worked closely with her father, Sir Michael Butler, cataloging and researching his extensive 17th century porcelain collection. She's also co-author, actually with me, of Leaping the Dragon Gate, the Sir Michael Butler collection of 17th century Chinese porcelain. So welcome, Catherine.
Thank you very much, Teresa. And I'd like to add my thanks to everybody else's, particularly for actually creating the 6, because I think to have a forum where people can get together and really exchange their research is really something fantastic. This one is a bit different because I wanted to talk about scientific approaches to studying ceramics, and in particular those of the late Ming and early Qing. What I would like to talk about 4 things. I want to talk about a project that I'm involved in testing the porcelain of the late Ming and early Qing using mass spectrometry. And apologies to those who were in Portugal because I'm repeating a little of it. Several of our colleagues were there recently. I want to consider what AI can do and how it can help or hinder. I want to look at and discuss how important it is to have reliable data and big data, and then to summarize where we are now. So this 3-year project I'm involved with Professor Shortland from the Cranfield University. He is the Professor of Archaeological Science and the Director of Research with 30 years experience in the ancient, in the study of ancient and historical glass, glaze, and enamels. And we're working with these 3 collections to see if we can find some sort of signature, a chemical signature through mass spectrometry. Cranfield University were the ones who analysed this roux dish in the British Museum that had been always believed to be Korean Goryeo. By studying 10 pieces from the museum of known roux-ware and 10 of Goryeo, they found a signature that definitely defined it as roux-ware, and it moved departments, I suppose, and got a few more noughts on its value, I suppose, as well. So here we are on site at our museum. The project is meant to be quantitative to start with, so we're going to be trying to test as many pieces. And there you see Professor Shortland and our PhD student, Genet, with a box specially made that's lined with lead to prevent the X-rays sort of zapping us. And it takes about 2 minutes on the blue and white pieces, and up to sort of 8 minutes on enamel pieces, because we test the glaze, the cobalt, and if we can get access to the body. These are our research questions. We're trying to refine our approach, and so we've given ourselves a limited number of research questions, particularly interested in the high transitional, the very brilliant purple, bright purple blue objects of the Changzhen period, and also looking into the famille verte and possibly the famille noire. We're also really interested in the whole question of authentication, and really one of the motivators is the fact that there's an awful lot of fakes coming onto the market, and they're getting into museums and they are getting very high prices at auction, which somehow gives them an authenticated value. My father was known by a lot of people as having the butler disease, which was eventually thinking everything was a fake. And I think I've slightly inherited it. And our 3-year project will end in 2027, which is actually his 100th birthday. And when he died, I got a letter from someone saying, well, right now he's in the Pot Museum in the sky, identifying which ones were really right and which ones weren't. And so maybe we can help him on his 100th birthday. We're going to be we are using a handheld XRF, and I'm not going to go into these precise details. I've got that just there for you to look at, but we're using a Brooker Tracer 5i. It's handheld, and the value of that is that it's portable and it's non-destructive. So it's very efficient for a rapid processing of pieces, obviously, that you don't want to destroy in any way. To start with, the first 3 months of the project was with the calibration. There are 3 main factors that you see there that we had to set: the voltage, current, and dwell time. And we wanted to find the sort of sweet spot that we get as accurate as possible information without in any way damaging the porcelain, which if you fire the X-rays too long could possibly affect it. But also that we wanted to process a lot of pieces. And what our plan is that once we have found some relevant patterns of data, that we will choose a few pieces for LAICP, which is laser ablation with mass spectrometry, which means that we take a pinprick of porcelain from part of the object. So it's micro-invasive, and that has to be processed in a laboratory. It is 20 times more precise. And so we'll only do it on a few pieces that we think will be particularly revealing. So far, there's, I haven't got a huge report, and hopefully in 2027 we will be able to give some information that Professor Shortland is absolutely convinced that we're going to be able to find signatures for all the areas that we're looking into. And in fact, he's just come back from Boston with Jeff Stamen's collection of Kangxi porcelain, and they think that they can recognize modern pieces clearly, and that they have seen distinct differences in zinc levels in 19th century famille verte style objects. And Jeff also told me that he thinks that we can unlock famille noire. There's a vast amount of data that is created for each object that is tested, because you're looking at the relationship of an almost unlimited number of elements in comparison to each other. I think on this we have iron versus cobalt, and processing that is complex, and it's likely that we will be using AI in the next phase once we got the data. It is now almost exactly 3 years since ChatGPT burst onto our lives, and I think most of us are pretty much bored of hearing about AI, and in sometimes a little suspicious with its hallucinations, but it can do some interesting things. And I have been working with 2 computer scientists based in America. They're both Chinese, Tua Zhang, and I worked on an AI agent to see if it could recognize the objects on a piece of porcelain, so on a 3-dimensional object, and identify what was their meaning and their significance. And first of all, he tested using all the different LLMs, or in this case, a VLM, a visual language model, and tested that against humans who had no information and found that they were pretty much the same. But then taking a data set, we used Dr. Ni Bin's data set of, he spent his life collecting information about the symbolism on porcelain and other Chinese objects. And actually, it works quite well. And if anyone wants to see afterwards, I can show. So if you look at this object, it identifies the salient symbols and comes out and tells you that this is a pun wishing you great success. We had a project with the British Museum where they have a collection of about 120 objects that were donated in the 1920s without much provenance information. And TWA, again, using what's called retrieval augmented generation, trained a model on a huge amount of documentation, including Russian, Chinese, English books that were just scanned in quite a rough way. And he asked his model, when was the object made and where was it made? And we took the photographs from the British Museum and vectorized them so that they were turned into these line drawings, and then did the same with the books. And the results were pretty good. He made this agent. He wrote a paper about it. The meaningful attributions were at 63%, although he was a little suspicious that there was the humans, the curators who looked at it, were maybe they had a bit of a bias against AI. So it's possible that with a bit of tuning and more inputs, the results could be very good. We also then tried to create a more entertaining product, which was an AI curator. And in a museum in Prague of Mucha, we created this product that basically you can ask about the objects. And I've started making one for our museum in Dorset. And basically, for each object, it gives you some sort of standard information that is not AI generated, and then a few questions just to prompt you to ask some more, or you can ask your own question. And I asked it on this one. I asked who had done the most recent research on the Zhonghe Tang group, and it said, the most recent research on this group has been conducted by Professor Peter Y.K. Lam, along with Mei Huang and Xinghua Huang. Their findings were presented during the Sir Michael Butler Memorial Lecture delivered at the OCS in London in 2017. Additionally, Professor Lam provided further insight in an addendum where he identified the exact location of the Zhonghe Tang and discussed its connection to Fan Wengying, who played a significant role in the production of these porcelain, etc., etc. It'd been trained on very specific data that I had given it. So it wasn't looking out in the whole big wide world of the internet. And this is the essence of AI. If you train it well, you'll get good data out. And if you put rubbish in, you'll get rubbish out. So back to the question of data, it's really important that it is reliable. The Jingdezhen Gene Bank is the most fantastic resource that is being developed. Dresden has also made an amazing resource of putting their entire inventories online. And there are more and more databases throughout the world that are being connected. And I think Dr. Wang might tell us about his map, which I think is a fantastic project. I've been working for the last few years on a list of objects between 1550 and about 1720 that have got dates, and I found about 520. And recently, I've now been working on finding objects with seal marks, and less usual marks like Shenzhe, because obviously it was not a very long reign, so if things have that, you can really date them. I've been looking at a group which have got marks related to bamboo, and then the Musheju group. And because I haven't got so much to say about science, not being a scientist, I thought I'd just tell you about some of the things that by assembling big data, I have found connections. And this group of objects with these marks related to bamboo were first discussed in the Shanghai exhibition of 2005. These objects have the same Zhu Ying seal, and they're often dated and very high quality, and it's very likely that this is a studio producing them all. And those are the seal marks. And these two objects also have this mark of the Zhongshan Ren, the mountain hermit. And the piece in the Shanghai Museum is very important because it's dated to 1653 within the Shenzhe reign, and it has that mark alongside the bamboo group. So it's interesting to put them together. I also found, that's the seal mark. I also found very interestingly that the seal mark on the two dated pieces in the Hatcher wreck, I found that we had exactly the same seal mark of 3 pieces in the Butler collection, which is so wonderful that you can keep on making discoveries, with a collection that is 60 years old or so. So I also found 3 more objects with that same seal mark on. And this brings up another point, is that 2 of those, they're all from sales. And one doesn't really know if they're right or wrong. And it's a question, with making big data, is who's policing it? Who is the one to say this is right or wrong? And I see very often research papers has pieces which I don't believe in. This piece is very interesting because the slightly controversial object in the Shanghai Museum in the 2005 exhibition was dated by my father to 1700 rather than 1640. It also is in that same group, written, it's not got a seal mark, but it's written by the master Yui. Very interestingly, it's in cursive script, which I will come back to. I've done a lot of work on this group, the Mushiju. I found 110 pieces to date. I think at least we'll find 50 more. And I wanted very much to pay my thanks to Hao Yang, who's helped me, and the thesis by Bo Zhaoyun, which are fabulous. And I think that they will be contributing a lot. Hopefully, Hao Yang will produce a paper on our research on the Mushiju. What I have found is that of this group, there are 9 that are dated. Again, that piece in the China Guardian piece here, I haven't handled it. It looks a bit strange to me. I don't know. But anyway, interestingly, the blue and white pieces are still in the 17th century, and then the famille verte and the powder blue are into the 18th century. The Mushiju was identified in a wonderful paper by Peng Lian Lu from the Metropolitan Museum in 2017. And when he identified on this magnificent vase that the Curtises donated to the Metropolitan, and it's got these 10 poems of famous scenes around Jingdezhen, and they're all signed. And there's a story of a poet or a visiting official and 2 poets and a potter who go on this wonderful, gathering around these wonderful sites. And it seems very likely that it's actually signed by the artist and the owner of the Mushiju workshop. So I think that is convincing that it is by the actual owner of the workshop, which is fantastic to be able to identify such thing. And these two objects here, this one in the Bristol Art Museum and this one in the Butler collection, also have a variety of seal marks besides the Mushiju, possibly identifying other names of the sort of the workshop, and more research needs to be done on them. But it's interesting to link them. The other group, the powder blue, so far we found 10. The two pieces are dated. We found this group in powder blue, and I just really wanted to show these to you rather than say very much about them. That we found there's quite a group with ladies. There's the powder blue one. There's some more. This one here, I hadn't wanted to put it in because it looked very odd to me, but then it has a very old provenance. Maybe our testing project will be able to tell us more about it. It doesn't look so 17th century or early 18th, but who knows? But that's another group from the Mushiju, and they're all these large dishes in the famille verte style with that mark on it. A lot of the square vases, and the square vase was a new shape in the 1690s. There are 3 in the world known. The first one was in the 1980 Christie's catalogue, and I don't know where it's gone. There's one in the Palace Museum and the one I showed earlier in our collection. There are quite a lot of square vases with the Mushiju mark on it. And there's just some birds and flowers, and those with inscriptions, and then a lot of brush pots. Don't mind that there. These clerical scripts, I also thought that science could possibly help with identifying the hands on these pieces. And I sent these to a graphologist in China who said it was impossible to tell me if they were by the same hand, didn't think that really any of them were. He said that it would be better to look at cursive scripts as they are more identifiable. We had in the Mushiju, there's quite a lot of objects with cursive scripts, which is more difficult. It needs a greater level of understanding, and that is an area of research that different scientific group could look at. And then going back to these two, one in the Shanghai Museum and one in the Phoenix Art Museum, which are really very early for having a cursive script on. So we think about those a bit more. Then on the cursive script, what a wonderful bit of serendipity was this very beautiful object in the Butler collection with a fantastic script and a beautiful poem. I realized that it too has that Zhongshan mountain man seal, same as the in the Shanghai Museum. Is it possible that between 53 and 87 the same workshop was going? And actually, I found another one of these in a sale. So the famous vase in the Shanghai Museum, another one came up for sale in 2010. It looks good from the picture, but is it possible that could be two? That's the same question. Who's policing? Who's deciding? So a very interesting area of research could be biometric, because this object, some of you have seen this before, we discovered in 2022 that on the horse, it has been painted with a thumb of the, hang on, try and go back, of the painter. It's actually his thumb, you can see at the top, his thumb has been used to create texture. And a couple of weeks ago, literally, we were in the museum looking at this one, and I realized that a second object in our collection, there is a thumb mark on it. It's not as precise. And I sent them to Cranfield, to the forensic department, to see whether they could see, with the policeman there, whether it was the same. And actually, I've been pushing for results for the last 2 weeks. And I got a text this morning that they have looked at it. It definitely is a human thumb, and they don't think it's the same thumb. So I guess if it is or it isn't, it's quite exciting. I think there's things. So there's lots of different scientific research that we can do. And what I wanted to summarize was that when the forensic science is done, there has to be buy-in from the community. So, the results that we get from our research, we will need the art historians to look at it and see whether it concurs with their findings. And there has to be, a group belief in it, that data sets have to be composed of reliable objects, and that is very much the approach that we're going to have, that we need to unify, when data tags are put on, they have to be unified, and because obviously if you don't call the same thing by the same name, you can't get the results out of it. That's essential for the AI research. That when you're gathering information, you need as many images as possible. With 3-dimensional objects, one picture is not enough. And that we as a community need to agree on our standards and our definitions, so that we're all speaking the same language. And I want to commend Dr. Wang from the Jingdezhen Ceramic Institute, Imperial Kiln Institute, for his work on working with the ISO, the International Standards Organization, to find a way of classifying ancient ceramics. And I think he might mention it a bit more, but it's something that we need to be working together to get the best results. Thank you very much.
Our last speaker of this panel is Ms. Anna Schulgott. She is a curator of the Chinese porcelain and other crafts at the Peterhof Museum in Oranienburg branch in Russia. Please welcome Anna.
Good afternoon. I would like to say many thanks all organizers of this conference, and especially Dr. Van. My paper, it's overview of collection Chinese porcelain blue and white, Qin Dynasty. It's begin of Qin Dynasty and some objects from the end of Ming Dynasty, from the collections of Peterhof and Oranienbaum palaces. And the State Peterhof Museum was a summer residence of Russian Tsars near St. Petersburg, a former capital of Russia. Peterhof was built in imitation of French Versailles Palace at the beginning of 18th century by the Russian Emperor Peter I. It was formed like a complex of gardens and fountains, and several palaces of Peterhof were decorated with numerous Chinese decorative objects, porcelain, lacquer, carved lacquer, black lacquers with gold-plated jet objects, enamels, and so on. And this collection were assembled by the Russian royal family in 18th and 19th centuries. The first palace in the Peterhof was Palace Montplaisir. It was the favorite residence of Peter the Great on the picture shore of the Gulf of Finland. It was built between 1714 and 1723. And in its palace, most beautiful and most unique interiors. It's a lacquer study decorated with black lacquer panels with gold painting, created by Russian artisans under the guidance of the Dutch master in imitation of Chinese lacquer. On the walls were placed carved gilded consoles with Chinese porcelain cups and vases. The collection was formed in 3 ways: through purchases from the Dutch East India Company in Holland, by caravan road and through purchases from the and the later purchasing in the second half of 20th century. In 1760-1770, during the first travel during the second travel, Peter's agreed to the Europe with the embassy. He visited a lot of European cities, including Hamburg, Copenhagen, Bremen, Amsterdam, Saardam, Utrecht, The Hague, Leiden, and Paris. According to the diary of the Grand Embassy, it's known that on December 6, 1716, Peter arrived in Amsterdam. He remained in Holland for several months and was equipped with acquiring a wide range of knowledge in the fields of economics, science, and the arts. According to the diary of embassy, it's known that on December he arrived in Amsterdam, and we have some documents about his life in Ost India Company and a company and his works there. Sorry. The second way, this is the second way. So this is the embassy to the China, and we know about very close relations between China and Russia. And also we have some documents about a personal gift. Emperor Kensei presented Peter first a map of China, valuable porcelain and crystal tableware. Peter sent the emperor his own generous gifts, yakut sables, a diamonds encrusted mechanical watch, a microscope tuned by the Tsar himself, on the latter a compass and eyeglasses. The diary of Chamberlain Berchholz describes a visit to Ismailov's house. Then he come back from the China in Moscow. There are things bought from China were exhibited, and there were many white cups of everyday use. On this photo, you can see these cups. And the cups with the carving, and here you can see the mark of Ming Dynasty, Chen Huang reign, but we are dating it Kanxi period. And also very interesting cup, carved cup with the flower, with chrysanthemum flower, and this mark on the bottom. And see, we can see this cup with illuminated and the flowers and this beautiful cup open for for you more full. Also, in the diary of Bergholz mentioned beautiful blue and gold objects, objects with gold painting. So we understand this is rinsing cups, cups with lids, and so on. The very close objects we can see in the collection of Porzellansammlung in Dresden. We can see the cups, vase, jugs, and cups, low cups, very similar to our collection. The most early objects, export objects in our museum, this is export crackware. And one most interesting object, it is a bowl with a silver handle. Now it's in exposition of Montplaisir Palace. So we also have in our collection objects from late purchasing and later donated. And one of them, it's a group of tear pots from the Van Tau shipwrecks purchased by our sponsors, especially for Montplaisir collection. On this photo, we can see two tear pots with glaze has become made from being in salt water for a long time. And the group cups also was purchased in 19 years and donated for our palaces. And of course, the large jars, the group of large vases, and one of them we can date in the beginning of Qing dynasties. And this jar decorated with thin Pinshan Sandi. And in the central composition, we can see an official with a tablet for the emperor's notes and orders. And a young servant stands in front of him and holds a vase with 3 polearms. And this is the Remus based on homophones, says, may you promote it swiftly by 3 ranks. Also very popular in Europe and in Russia collections was Hulu vases. The vase is the end of Ming Dynasty, the reign of Changzhen, and the vase is Kansi period. This vase also depicting this benevolence, and here we can see 2 servants and they stand before officials, holds vase with 3 polearms and a hat. The second vase, pair vase, depicted a series of encounters between ancient emperors and hermit sage in which the rules offer their thrones to the rustics. In the early Taoist text Zhuangzi, an entire chapter entitled Giving Away a Throne is taken up with such tales. The passage from this text relate the story of hermit sage, ruler of Lu, and Yan He. And here we can see this scene. Yan He, and citate, Yan He was in his humble wearing robe and feeding a cow. And here we can see this moment. Another momental was, this is a large yard with cover, can see rain, with beds and panels are reserved on the dark blue ground. On the shoulder, 8 Jouy in tow, wish-filling stylized cloud scrolls, panel with object of Bogu, this 100 antiquities and flowers. The central part with 4 large panels filled with scenes from novels, the cover also with 4 panels with scenes of playing child in the garden. This is a detail with the same story. And this is our large jar, 77 centimeters considering, and the vase from a collection in Dresden. And here we can see similar decorative and composition design, but different in shape. Both decoration with bands and panels are reserved on dark blue ground. And also monumental vase with the carving and a vase from the Städtliche Kunstsammlung in Dresden. And vase is decorated in underglaze blue and underglaze copper red. Around the foot, a border of lotus scrolls. The body and cover with Julian toe, lambrequins, fill peony spreads and scrolls. On the lower part, 4 amulet function, 4 square amulet function from Babao sets. The base unglazed. And from archive of Dresden Palace, 7021, and try that number 206, 1 garniture of 1 large oval jar with a short neck and cover upon which sits a somewhat damaged wooden grotesque in green and gilt. And there are sizes of vase. It's 1.5 CBT. CBT, it's 1L. Elbogen, it's about 56 and 6 centimeter. And so we understand we have the same size vase. In this inventory also mentions 2 companion bottle bakers with short necks. And we have the same set from like in Dresden. One of the vases have a paper label with inventory number with inscription Mikhailovsky Palace 78, number 13. This indicates that the items come from Arenenbaum collections, 1878 year from the Russian Imperial collection. On the bottom, you can see the hole because probably one time it was a candelabra or something with gilded bronze decoration. Also, very interesting vases. It's 3 candelabra vase from Grand Palace. In Petergof, they have a roll wagon shape with gilded bronze mounts, and on the shoulders also 6 Jouy on toe, stylized cloud scrolls panels, and the body decorated with white leaves, scrolls, and peonies on a light blue ground. The same vases were very popular, and I find a lot of them in different collections in Britain, in Great Britain, and in France. And you can see the sets, 5 vases with the same shapes, and one vase with same decoration, also in collections of Dresden. The porcelain with gold, gilded bronze was very popular in 19th century especially, and we can see one of the objects made specially for the palaces interiors. And some blue and white objects also very popular in Europe and Russia and America, United States. It's vases decorated with thin long leaves. It's well known like long leaves. And this is lotus petal panels with beautiful ladies, with flower pots, with flowers, lotus, rose, chrysanthemums, and another. And the covers also with 4 panels with flowers and lady. And on the base, marked with the Artemisia leaf. Okay. Here also take a picture from digital, from online project porcelain Kunstsammlung Dresden. And you can see a little bit different form and different marks, but in, very close in design. And this form also very popular in Kansi period and popular motif, the Meihua, white Meihua flowers on the ice. And the baluster roll wagon vase, also Kansi period with the depiction of Bogu, 100 antiquities depicted, and with without coda. And we have also one interesting object, and maybe I have a question for you, because I can't I can't date these objects. We have the mark Da Minchen Huan and Ji, and it's very often we can see on the Kansi reign period, but I think it can be Guangxu or the end of 19th century, and I will be very glad if someone to help me. Thank you very much.